Today, we are picking a stock in the Indian defense space. On Friday afternoon yesterday, the Defense Acquisition Council in India decided to give new defense procurement orders worth 80,000 crores. This is over and above the 2 lakh crores that was placed in December of 2023 and a 10,000 crore deal in January of 2024. The firm is building Asia's largest manufacturing capacity for one of their product lines, signed MOUs to enter new adjacent domains, and recently inaugurated new research facility for new product lines and to have a dominion in its field. पर ये शेयर उसके ऑल टाइम हाई पे है. क्या गवर्नमेंट का आत्मनिर्भर कैंपेन इसको और ऊंचाइयों तक लेके जा सकता है? चलिए जानते हैं. तो शुरू करते हैं एक अनबायस्ड कवरेज जस्ट बेस्ड ऑन फैक्ट्स ऑन द ओनली एरोस्पेस डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. My name is Ashish Thomas. I'm an IIM graduate and a management consultant. My daily job is to evaluate firms, understand their risks, and anticipate market moves. And I thought, why not apply all of that to the stock market? So here we are. As with our previous videos, we begin with the industry analysis, move on to the business model. Then we take a peek under the hood on its financials. फिर इस कंपनी के रिस्क को देखेंगे and finally the valuations. With that preamble, let's dive in to understand the winds of change in the industry. In the 2024 interim budget, Nirmala Sitharaman allocated around 6.2 lakh crores for the Ministry of Defense, and this defense capital is growing at 9% CAGR. India will now target a rupees 1.5 lakh crores spend on modernizing its armed forces until 2023. This is the spend every year. The goal also is to indigenize over 400 weapon platforms such as aircraft and systems such as radars by 2030. उन्होंने 1 लाख करोड़ का लॉन्ग टर्म लो कॉस्ट क्रेडिट लाइन किया है फॉर ऑल द रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट वर्क, building on absorbing all the technology learnings that our Indian firms are getting through the joint ventures, the foreign joint ventures which are happening. This will also help us reduce our reliance on the Russia-dominated weaponry that we have. अब इस नए फोकस ग्रोथ के भी 2-3 बेसिक रीजंस हैं. With the increased neighborhood security issues, especially in the Indian Ocean region, a strong domestic industry is vital. इंडिया का सैंक्शन स्ट्रेंथ 42 स्क्वाड्रंस है, बट वी हैव ओनली 31 स्क्वाड्रंस. इंडिया 4th जनरेशन फाइटर्स पर है, बट यूएस, चाइना, रशिया ऑलरेडी ऑन 5th जनरेशन फाइटर्स एंड दे आर हेडेड टुवर्ड्स द 6th जनरेशन फाइटर्स. The war in Ukraine emphasized that there is a need to move away from one supplier, that's Russia, and build new networks. इसलिए काफी नए joint ventures हुए हैं, टाटा विद बोइंग, GE विद HAL. इंडिया की एक सेल्फ सफिशिएंसी अचीव करना चाहती है by investing heavily in the new capacity and R&D, जिससे वो अपने आर्म्स खुद बनाए. एंड और एक जियो पॉलिटिकल इन्फ्लुएंस बनाने के लिए they need to sell to other countries by selling the Indian-made weaponry and aircrafts. December 2023 में अर्जेंटीना की आर्मी को HAL ने मीडियम एंड लाइट हेलीकॉप्टर्स का डील किया था और उसके स्पेयर्स के लिए भी किया था. Overall, our defense exports have grown by 334% and has now reached 75 countries. इंडिया भी उस स्टेज पे है कि वो अपने एक लाइफ लॉन्ग टैग ऑफ नेट इंपोर्टर को हटा के एक ग्लोबल आर्म सुपर पावर बन सकता है. और उसमें HAL is the only aerospace company, so absolute monopoly to win the space. From here, let's move on to the next section where we take a quick glance on what are some of the highlights of the firm, then move on to understand the competitive edge and strategy by the company. Finally, we'll look at some of the big news that the firm is making in the market and any kind of corporate action or any kind of acquisitions which are happening. With that, HAL has over 85 years of experience in designing, manufacturing, repairing and servicing aircrafts, helicopters, rockets and associated parts. Its order book stands around at 800 billion rupees, which is 3 times the 2023 sales of the company. They also have a strong order inflow, having already achieved the 70% of its order status for 2024. High technical expertise है with 11 research centers and 20 production centers, and it manufactures around 16 aircrafts per year, which is to be increased to 24 by next year. It is also launching one of the largest manufacturing facilities in India, apart from all the servicing work that it is doing. Now let us look at what makes the aerospace moat. So for HAL, it has a monopoly in the entire aerospace defense space. इसके साथ साथ इन्होंने MOU साइन करके रॉकेट इंजन्स बनाने लग गए हैं इसरो के साथ, एंड नेवल हेलीकॉप्टर्स बनाने लग गए हैं नेवी के साथ, एंड सिविल एविएशन लाइन में भी घुस गए हैं. With the support with the government, there's a huge barrier to entry in this space. With the government setting a 5 billion export target and the promotion that it is doing for all the HAL aircrafts and helicopters internationally, HAL already accounts for 26% of all defense exports. Only Bharat Electronics is higher at 33%, but they are selling more electronic parts, unlike the HAL's full surface crafts. And finally, due to the Atmanirbhar or the indigenization push, HAL has spent over 2,000 crores on R&D and already established global partners to further its technical capabilities. All this shows another high barrier to enter and compete with an expert firm in the market. And finally, some news which is happening. There are 4 major things that are happening in HAL with the market. On February 16th, which is yesterday, Defense Acquisition Council approved the 80,000 crores, which, as we covered, 10,000 crores of helicopter procurement is there, and then 2.2 lakh crores of broad acquisitions of Tejas aircrafts and spares are there. On January 21st, during the Wings India event in Hyderabad, it announced the entry into the civil aviation space through the light transport helicopters which are there. On January 4th, they launched the new Aero Engine Research and Development Center, which is going to be focused on developing engines for the unmanned vehicles or small fighter jets. And finally, we talked before that HAL is entering into the space with the cryogenic rockets with ISRO and then magnesium alloy casting with CSIR. So there's a lot of things that HAL is doing right now. And all of this is yet to get into the revenues and the financials that we are going to see. So the next section as a good segue is the financials. Numbers don't lie. But before we go there, आपने काफी सारे stock videos देखे होंगे, but very few are going to go into the depth like we are going today. So please like the video अगर you haven't already, and वहाँ पे एक bell icon होगा, वहाँ पे all notifications click कीजिएगा so that you're up to date, because I will be launching a new company analysis every 3 days. We have 2,000 stocks to go and only 365 days, तो content तो काफी आने वाला है. Some typing and a quick search later. So HAL grew at 7.8% CAGR between 2020 and 2023, resulting in a revenue of 269 billion rupees. In fact, they grew at the same growth of 8% last year too. So continuing that growth story and posting the highest ever revenue figure. EBITDA margin improved too despite the rise in the raw material cost. Net income increased too in the same period by 16%. If you look at the operational front, operating cash flow reduced हुआ है given the raw material cost and the employee expenses which have increased. 20 billion rupees का capex किया था उन्होंने last year. So to increase the capacity, which will take effect after another 1 to 2 years. So there is going to be a lot of long-term perspective efficiency gains which are going to come into the operating cash flow, as well as it is going to improve the profits of the company. At the current state, it is net debt free. Government की company है, तो पूरा advance cash पर ये पूरा system चलता है. Return on equity is at really good 22%, which is much higher than the industry average of 12%. If the return on equity is higher, it means that the company management is more efficient at generating income and growth from an equity financing perspective. Even the return on capital employed is at 30% as opposed to the industry average of 15%. And finally, the EPS is at 87 with the industry average being only at 29. The higher the earnings per share of a company, the better is the profitability. So the ratios are looking really good for the company. If you look at the equity research analysts, because of the bullish ratios, they are also bullish about the share being growing up to almost 15% by the end of this year. Its revenue growth target is around 24% and a profit growth of 20%. Once the execution of some of the large orders like the light aircrafts picks up, the company would go into the double-digit revenue growth very easily. And they're also seeing, because of the robust order book which is there and the healthy order inflows, all of the things are looking very bullish from an equity research analyst perspective for the share. When we look at the shareholders, the holding pattern is very stable. There is no insider buying or selling. Selling usually indicates that there is some kind of inefficiency which might arise in the future. The state owns 72% of the entire stock. Within institutions, there are some of the established institutions which are there. Even the government of Singapore is invested into the stock. Now let's understand, with every great investments comes some noteworthy risks. So what does the risk look like from an HAL perspective? There are disruptions in the supply chain of any critical management, which especially comes from these foreign manufacturers, especially in the wars which are happening right now. It can adversely impact the business. In the export market, there's a significant competition from large manufacturers like Dassault, Lockheed Martin, Airbus, and Boeing. So there's a lot of competition there which they need to fight to it. Any kind of delay which is going to happen in the manufacturing is going to affect the revenue recognition and also increase costs for the company. And finally, as you would have realized, HAL's sales and cash flow heavily depends on the size and the timing of the budgetary allocations by the Ministry of Defense. So any change to the government regime can impact the allocation, can impact the domestic procurement policy, and might potentially impact HAL's position as the sole fighter aircraft producer. So that is a risk that is going to be there in the company. Now, finally, the most awaited section, or at least for me, what I think is important is the valuations. You already are aware of this. This is the equity research field, World Car, the football field. And if you look at equity research targets, their low is around 2950 and going as high as 3600. When I ran the relative valuation and look for trading comparables, I used Bharat Electronics, Bharat Dynamics, Data Patterns, and other Indian defense firms. I also added in some of the international equivalents as HAL is a monopoly here. So firms like Boeing and Airbus were also accounted for. The relating valuation is coming to around 3050 to 3500 right now. I'll also add that the stock is trading at a PE of 32, which is better than the industry market average, which is there. And if you look at the intrinsic valuation of the DCF, which is agar aap sirf financials ko dekho aur project karo, it's coming between 2500 to 3150 with a discounted cost of capital being around between 9.2 to 10.2 and a long-term growth of 6.5%. So all in all, the stock is right priced at the moment with a potential upside of only 7 to 8%. So the game here is not about, taking the stock and immediately, looking for the market gains, but holding it for the long-term scenario or the long-term plan, given a lot of these macro things are improving in the market. So final thoughts. अगर आप लोगों को कुछ भी अच्छा लग रहा हो तो जरूर लिखना what it is. Do like the video and do tell me what is the next share that you want me to look into. Do not forget to click the bell icon for the notifications. So with that, the goods. It is the primary supplier. There is a long-term demand on the books. There's heavy R&D spend, which makes the entry hard into the market. And there's numerous joint ventures that can actually help it diversify its entire revenue stream. The bads are the valuations are at par, so you're not entering the stock with the expectation of immediate upside. The raw material costs can impact the margin significantly. I think that with that, my opinion is that there's a lot of goods to HAL over the bad. However, with the high valuation, I would think of holding on to the stock if you have it already, especially given the interim dividend that they have announced is of 20 rupees. So there is that income that is going to come in. For entering into the market, it would be only with the long-term view, especially given that India is accelerating to become Atmanirbhar in the defense space. So with that mindset, you can think of entering in this share. With that, that's my time for today. I hope that this has given you a great starting point as you think about HAL as a share. Do like the video. Please drop in the comments if you like something or if anything that I should change. Aapke comments काफी valuable रहेंगे as I continue to build this channel. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and please share it with like-minded investors. Do note that I am not SEBI registered yet, so this is completely my independent views and analysis. Please do your own research and let me know what you feel about HAL. And we are going to meet on Monday with the next video. Thank you.